time. Let's get it rolling. Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are so glad you are here, and just by showing up today, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to present two really interesting and accomplished music industry players who also happen to be close friends and who are living proof that you can do really well while doing good. And I promise you will leave today thinking, wow, who knew? And you'll also leave smarter and more inspired than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and please make some new ones. And also ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the session. Also, please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this free. Special thank you to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brew Works, Project Music, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome DJ IRiE. DJ IRiE is an international sensation, currently serving as the official DJ of Carnival Cruise Lines. IRiE's partnerships range among several who's who of blue chip companies and brands, including three-time NBA world champion Miami Heat and superstar Jamie Foxx. The St. Croix native is also the man behind IRiE Music Corporation, co-owner of Loose Anchor Clothing Company, Poochie's Pizza, and Venture Projects LLC Venture Capital. He has performed on some of the world's biggest stages, including the American Music Awards, MTV's VMAs, FIFA World Cup, International Premier Tennis League, the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl, and the NBA All-Star Game, just to name a few of those, as well as corporate events for Louis Vuitton, Google, Red Bull, and many more. Calling Miami home, DJ IRiE continues to be a major supporter of numerous local and national nonprofit organizations, in addition to his active role with the IRiE Foundation. IRiE and his team continue to expand the scope of the foundation's efforts. Recognized worldwide for his tremendous talent and sharp business acumen, he has picked up numerous accolades, including Global Spin Awards National Club DJ of the Year and Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, Charles E. Perry Young Alumni Visionary Award, Grey Goose's Rising Icon Award, and the Southern Entertainment Awards Nightclub DJ of the Year. Welcome, IRiE. It's such a pleasure to have you here, man. And
Thanks, Sean. Thank you so much for a warm welcome.
Amen. And joining IRiE as today's featured guest is Jeff Ransdell. Jeff is a venture capitalist building a portfolio of exponential technology companies at South Florida-based Fuel Venture Capital, which he founded in 2017 following his departure from the world of wealth management on Wall Street. As founding partner and managing director, Jeff approaches VC with a signature founder-focused, investor-driven mindset shaped by 2 decades as a top executive of Bank of America Merrill Lynch. As a managing director and market executive of the financial powerhouse, he managed more than 130 billion, that's with a B, of global private investment assets and a P&L of $2 billion with over 2,000 employees across the bank's Southeast Wealth Management division. His transition to venture capital was motivated by what he saw as mounting evidence that opportunities to shape the economy and capitalize on innovation were steadily shifting from the public markets to the private markets. In the face of much skepticism, Jeff chose Miami as the home base for Fuel Venture Capital, armed with an unparalleled Rolodex and emboldened to leverage the city's untapped resources and advantages. Today, Fuel is a VC firm with $700 million in assets under management and has a portfolio of 33 companies. It is an honor to welcome these two rock stars to our platform. Take it away, boys.
IRiE.
Thanks so much. The Ransdell. What's up, my brother?
When Tom says good friends, the truth of the matter is IRiE is my more successful, handsome brother. And as you can tell, it's only an hour-long show, but it took Tom 20 minutes just to get through all of IRiE's accolades. My successful rock star brother. Oh, good to see you, brother.
Jeff, you are too much, man. I am so happy to be here to do this with you, man. We're gonna have some fun.
So you tell everybody. So my brother IRiE is in Ireland right now. He is filming for those of you who don't know. IRiE and Jamie Foxx do a show called Shazam, and they're actually filming live filming the show in Dublin right now. So IRiE, I really appreciate you jumping on here because I know this is a hell of a lot of work for you. Just goes to show you, man, you're one hell of a good friend, and always feel fortunate to even get to say that I know you. I mean, that's the cool thing, when I see you in town and you actually know who I am, right? So it's like that's kind of cool.
Listen, I'm the fortunate one. You're my brother for life. And just as a note of clarification, yes, I am here in Ireland, shooting Beat Shazam. This is a show that I started doing with Jamie from day one. This is the 6th season. This is the first season. We're shooting a show without Jamie, as most of our viewers may know. Jamie's had a bit of a medical complication, but he is doing well. We just wanted him to take his time, fully heal up, fully rest up, and we're out here holding it down for him. Nick Cannon has signed on to guest host. So the show, rolls on, and we hope to make him really proud with what we're creating out here. So it's all good. It is all good.
I heard that there was significant. I don't know, Tom. Can I swear? Because I'm from Texas. I tend to have a colorful vocabulary, but maybe I'll catch myself. Okay, well. I heard about the fuckery that took place last night with Kelly Osbourne. You got to tell the story.
All right, listen. I'll tell it real quick, and then we're gonna dig into some really juicy, interesting stuff about you and what you've been doing. But so we came out here. We didn't really know what was gonna happen with the show, given Jamie's situation. I thought maybe it was going to be on a hiatus for a while. But given the schedule, long story short, the show had to go on if there was going to be a show, right? So they figured out that Nick would be best suited to fill in, but the studio wanted to make it they had a whole rollout, planned for this as a surprise, right? And a lot went into that. The show consists of Jamie, the host, and a quote unquote on-set DJ, which usually is Jamie's daughter, Corinne, right? She does an amazing job. But Corinne's also there, taking care of her dad. So they tapped Kelly Osbourne to be the guest, on-set DJ. And Kelly's a total sweetheart. But our original plan kind of got thwarted because we started, shooting yesterday. We're on set, and Kelly, being very excited to be there, pulls out her phone and takes a selfie video live on set. And she was to the right of me. I didn't really realize what she was doing because I'm focused, on the audience and what I'm doing. And it's my job to introduce Nick to the audience. So she pulls out her phone and shooting video right at the moment that I'm introducing Nick. So she catches the audio of me saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our guest host, Nick Cannon," right? And she posts the video, I guess not realizing that audio is on there. And TMZ picks it up right away. Boom, article comes out. Nick Cannon's covering for Jamie Foxx, you know. It's like, oh man, there goes the surprise, you know. So, but it's all good. Listen, we love Kelly. She definitely didn't mean any harm by it. It was an innocent mistake, but definitely caused a shift in the approach because we have to release statements and all that kind of stuff. And hey, it is what it is. We're here. We're shooting the show. The show's coming out amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to see season 6. So
Super
it's
cool.
all good.
Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, it's
Thanks
all
for
good.
being here again.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So Jeff, if you don't mind, I wanna jump into something, right? And to be honest with you, listen, we talk all the time, but this isn't even something that I think I've ever asked you before because it hadn't really dawned on me how truly remarkable this decision was. But what I'm talking about is back in 2017. Okay, for our audience out there, I've known Jeff a long time. Back when he was still doing private wealth with Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and you were in a good situation. If I
Yeah.
could just say, okay, like
Yeah.
you were in a really great situation. So,
Yeah.
you know, number one, you chose to make that decision, you know, to go into, you know, venture capital. And the crazy thing about it is you chose to do it in Miami. Now, before I turn it over, you know, I've seen you on a couple different television programs, especially talking about the situation with SVB, you know, Silicon Valley Bank, right?
Yeah.
And it really dawned on me, and I was like, wow, you know what? You know, what happened with SVB really affected a lot of VCs and startups, you know, in Silicon Valley, right out there in California. And I have friends that have gone to, you know, start, you know, tech, you know, businesses and have packed up their stuff from Florida and moved out to California, right? I have friends that have gone to work with VC firms out in California, but no, Jeff Ransdell says, I'm going to start my fund right here in Miami, right? Dude, what was it that made you, you know, this is before, you know, now it seems like, oh, it's everybody does that, right? You sense back then, but you did it. Why'd you do that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of answers to that, right, buddy? And you know this. So, you know, why did I leave Merrill to do this? That's question number one. And, you know, a lot of, you know, nobody on this call actually would know this, but, you know, IRiE and I have actually been investing in the private sector and technology together. Tom had mentioned some of the things that IRiE is that IRiE is involved in. And one of the things that he had mentioned, I'm actually an investor in one of IRiE's entities, and we invest in really interesting things. A number of really cool things, and that was really
venture
kind
projects.
of a lot of venture projects. Well, that's the name of the entity, venture projects. But yeah, we hold some pretty cool companies in there together outside of Fuel Venture Capital. But it was really because of all of that, and I've always really kind of prided myself on getting on my horse and riding out into the future and coming back to the present and trying to operate today with the end in mind. And I think if you talk to anybody from Merrill Lynch or Bank of America who knew me back then, you know, that was really what I was known for. I was always kind of the creative guy that was always trying to iterate and do things differently. And it just really became obvious to me, at least in my humble opinion, that, you know, people that are listening to us right now, right? The access to the creative economy has really only been abundant to large institutions. And because I came from private wealth, where I served, you know, two-legged individuals who were investing, you know, their life savings and their retirements and everything else, I wanted to give them access, right? Access in a way that was very similar to what they were used to in facing off with, you know, very buttoned up, large Wall Street firms. And so that's what we did. And, you know, obviously before I pulled the trigger and left Merrill to do this, I spent a lot of time I'm a very analytical guy. I mean, you know that about me. And so I spent a tremendous amount of time doing my research. And one of the things that was super interesting to me was, when I was sitting down and analyzing institutions, global families, ultra high net worth individuals who were allocating to the creative economy, most of it was out of the West Coast of the United States, which makes sense. Silicon Valley is the,
Yep.
The mothership of all
Yep.
this stuff. But when you start looking
That's the
at,
epicenter. Absolutely.
it's yeah. And if you look at like one fund and you look at another one that's next door and another one that's next door to them and another one, let's just say you line up 10 different funds in Silicon Valley and you do an overlap analysis, there's overlappage in each one of those funds to about 25 to 30%, where companies in fund one are in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, 10.
Sure.
And to me,
sure.
Being a portfolio construction person, my for 30 years, aging myself here a little bit, that just goes against diversification 101. And I thought to myself, well, shit, nobody's doing it. There's this huge, need to provide investors with a diversified portfolio of creative economy companies around the world, right? Technology's been democratized because or information's been democratized because of technology. People don't have to,
True.
Journey, from Dubai, for example, to Silicon Valley to build a great company. They can just stay in Dubai, and that's what we do. We provide our investors, and I think that we're probably, one of the biggest. I think we're the best, but you would expect me to say that. And really identifying great founders that are disrupting great companies.
I think a lot of people out there agree with you, Jeff.
Yeah, well, maybe. So, and that's what we do. And so, when you ask me why Miami, there's two true reasons for that. Number one, I think Miami is the greatest city in the world, and I feel that way, right? And I didn't want to leave Miami,
yes.
so it was for me. It was like, okay, well, I got to make this work because I don't want to leave Miami. That's one reason. And then the other reason was, if you're going to tell people,
a little selfish. That's
yeah,
good.
A little selfish.
That's good.
Yeah, but and then the other reason is, well, if you're going to tell people you're going to build out a diversified portfolio, you can't be in Silicon Valley. You got to walk the walk, right? So it all kind of worked out, and call it luck,
yes,
or whatever the hell you want to call it, but the thesis worked itself out, right? I mean, shit, Miami. Everybody who's anybody in the industry now is in Miami, and we're the OG.
That's it. Listen, I wouldn't call it luck. I would call it being a pioneer. I would call it being a trailblazer. Okay, because I'm sure that a lot of the folks that ended up, coming to Miami, looked into that landscape and they found Fuel VC, right? And they're like, wow, this is happening here. They're having success in Miami. We need to be a part of that. So I wouldn't call it luck, Jeff. I'd call it vision. You're certainly a pioneer. You've planted the flag, and this flag is now being noticed all around the world. So, kudos to you for that.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey for sure.
Given the kind of the nature, oh, absolutely, and the journey continues, right? Speaking of this journey continuing, just real quick, I want to get your take on, the basis of this conversation, also lies in music and the music industry, right? And how do you see technology playing a role in the music industry?
Yeah, that is a really interesting question we can go really, really deep on right now. I mean, most everybody who's listening today, in the last 7 weeks, the world has opened up artificial intelligence for the first time. And what I mean by opened up, I mean just kind of released it to the world. And I personally think, and again, we can go as deep on this as you want to, but I personally think that over the next 14 to 18 months, this is one of those defining moments. And everybody that's listening today, we take it for granted, right? We wake up in the morning and we go to the restroom or whatever, we hit the lights and the lights are there. We go to make a cup of coffee and the electricity is powering up our coffee maker. These are all things that we take for granted today. But if you go back in time, maybe our great grandparents,
Mhm.
they didn't have electricity in their home, right? It wasn't an abundant thing back then.
Mhm.
Maybe our great grandparents, they didn't even have plumbing inside the house.
Mhm.
They had an outhouse, whatever it was. These are all things we take for granted today, but life changing. And I think that OpenAI is one of those life changing, defining moments for our civilization
Yes.
at a level that actually 99% of the population has no clue what is about to happen. And I think that AI is going to have a significant effect on music, because to be very frank about it, and I've seen this technology. I mean, I can right now today I can go to AI programs that are being developed by founders who are focusing on disrupting music, and you can literally just go in
Yeah.
there and say, write me a song about my good friend IRiE, who's from Miami. And I'm not kidding you, within 15 seconds, it will create the lyrics, and then all I have to
Jeez.
do is apply the music. This technology exists today. So when you say how is it
Oh,
all going to change, I think for music creators, it's going to get really super interesting. I think that there's going, I mean, the truth of the matter is, IRiE, computers can pretty much do everything that a human can do and better. And I think that you're going to start seeing a lot of people who are using it to their advantage. And I mean, literally, I could create a persona.
yeah.
I could say, I'm a music songwriter, and I could create my own
Mhm.
persona and never really have any talent, just leveraging a computer that has the ability to scour the earth on a daily basis and understand what end users are really looking for and wanting to hear in music, and it would create it for me. I mean, I could do it. I could literally do it every hour of the day as long as I'm awake, and that exists today. That exists today. So I think
It's
everything
mind
is
blowing.
going to, yeah, what we're about to see is going to be absolutely mind blowing, and it's going to affect a lot of people, both positive and negative. And so, some days I wake up and I think, oh, this is super exciting, and other days I wake up and I'm scared to death. So it's just really interesting times, but definitely
Yeah.
music is going to be one of those verticals that gets affected, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. I think I wake up more mornings than not on the scared to death side, because I'm paying attention, and the rapid pace of development is mind blowing. I mean, mind blowing. At first it was every week something new is coming out. Every day now something new is coming out in terms of the capabilities of AI and machine learning. Um, and not to get too dystopian or anything, Jeff, but um, let's be pragmatic here for a moment, in the fact that this is very powerful technology, right? This is very, very powerful stuff. It's on the tips of at least people that are paying attention. It's on the tips of their tongues. It's front of mind. Um, you know, what do you see? You are a visionary, right? And you understand what's going on with the proliferation and development of this technology. And you're familiar with the concept of singularity, right? Um, you know, what do you see down the line? Um, in terms of the overall impact of this technology, not on just our everyday lives, but on humanity in general. Do you think we're in for just a pleasant improvement of quality of life, or do you think maybe there might be something a little bit more worrisome down the line? What do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm leaning a little bit more on the worrisome side, and you know me very well. I'm a very positive person. I mean, I try to see the best in everybody that I meet. I usually see the sky's blue, and I always believe the sun will shine after it rains. But this one does have me a little concerned, right? Like, there's a question here, um, about AI and music reduce the value of up and coming individual artists? And the answer to that, as I was just saying, that you and I were chatting about, the answer to that, in my humble opinion, would be absolutely. Because, you know, what
Yeah.
makes you know, a celebrity, let's think about you, right? What makes you so interesting and attractive to, you know, people who get to know you and see you is your character and your energy and all these little tiny things that make up IRiE, right? You know, at the end of the day, are you playing songs that nobody else has? The answer to that is no. It's really all about you, and that's the only thing
Correct.
that keeps me
Right.
grounded in thinking that it's all going to be okay. Because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, you know, the computer is going to be able to create a playlist for 4 hours that it knows. Like if you type in the general audience that you're going to be playing for that night, it'll create your set for you, and all you've got to then do is be the, you know, the person that you are. But I think like artists who are making music, I mean, the problem with it is now moving forward, you have to ask yourself, are they actually even making the music? And are they just what the hell was
Right.
it I read back in the 90s? It was the I think they were Jamaican, the two guys that got caught lip syncing all the time. They had
Oh,
like
Millie, they're
Milli
from
Vanilli. Yeah,
England. Millie Vanilli.
Milli
Yep.
Vanilli. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Look,
so I mean, ultimately,
that's a
that
perfect
could be what
example.
it becomes. Exactly. It's a personality like these guys. They
It
were
could be Millie
good looking
Vanilli
dudes
all day.
all day long, and it has nothing to do with them writing the songs or singing the songs or anything else. So I think it's going to get you know, super interesting. Now, other things that kind of have me a little bit concerned. Let's take the music piece and let's just move it to more like a social output, right? So if I
Yeah.
use AI to draft up a message that I'm trying to drive, right? And I go there and I you know, there's a topic that's going on in the United States. Maybe it's the up and coming elections in 24. The AI is going to scour the entire earth to give me the data to write out what that message should be. And then I put that out there on my social media, and you and everybody else that's on this call today really think that that's coming from me. And again, that computer program is analyzing the responses. It's analyzing, you know, the number of clicks. It's analyzing anybody who has positive or negative commentary to it and readjusts it, and then gives it back to me the very next day. And I put it out in an even sharper message. The point that I'm trying to make is with computer AI,
Right.
I in a period of time, I could literally get the entire world to start following me because I'm feeding them exactly what it is that they want to be fed.
They want.
And so these are the kinds of things that I think we have to be super careful about. And here's another thing, you know, and this is something that you read about every single day right now with the topic of AI, and that is that it has to be governed, right? There has to be regulations that are going to govern this thing. You hear it every single day. It's the only way to manage this. That's what every expert says. But the problem with regulation and the problem with policing,
Yeah.
as we all know, it's a reaction to a problem. It's very rarely proactive, right? It's a car crash
Agreed.
on I-95, and then someone says, well, you know, we keep having these car crashes on I-95. Maybe we need to take a look. Is there a big pothole or something? What's going on? And then they fix it. It's after the fact.
All reactive.
All reactive.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the problem with AI is once there's a problem that we identify, are we actually able to go and turn it off? Because the AI already has it.
Agreed.
So
Correct.
it's super interesting, right? To see. And then the other thing is when we use that analogy of turning it off, you know, you and I are good human beings. We have good core values, right? And if we see something that we think is bad, like these two computers start creating a language between themselves because they don't want us to know what they're talking about. It happens a number of times that I've actually been a part of, and we had to kill the programs. But what if you have people who aren't responsible that don't kill the program, and then that program goes wild, right? So these are all really super interesting, very deep conversations that we could talk actually for hours just about AI, but
Yeah,
yeah, just super
sure,
interesting
sure.
times.
All right. Well, on the lighter side, there's a question from Gareth, and Gareth reads, Jeff, how, if at all, are you planning to use AI in the VC landscape to differentiate Fuel further from other VCs?
Yeah. So first of all, Gareth Evans, a great partner of Fuel Venture Capital, a very large investor of Fuel Venture Capital. So Gareth, I appreciate you being on, brother. I think that AI will play a big part of the VC landscape because that's really what we do, right? I mean, our job is to get investors like yourself at very difficult VIP tables to be invited to. And I mean, that's our job, to be on the forefront. That's our job, to be out there, always trying to iterate and make sure that, we're a part of these technological advances. So, how are we going to use it? How we can use it and how we use it right, or starting to use it right now is, just as I was saying earlier, the messages that we send out to our investors. AI helps us with that formulation. It just makes it that much simpler. It can help us with analysis, right? If we're analyzing a company, we can literally scour the earth and understand, well, what's the defensibility of this company? How many other companies are out there that are trying to do these types of things? I mean, it's like I said, I really don't think that there's very little that AI is not going to touch. And in some cases, it will be game changing and life changing. And in other ways, it'll have a less effect, but it's going to affect us all in the next 14 to 18 months in significant ways. Just trust me on this. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming fast. Yeah. It is coming fast. It really is. It really is. So Jeff, if you don't mind, let's go a little bit deeper into Fuel and talk about your portfolio of companies, and what is it that you look for in making those decisions, to back certain companies and onboard them into the Fuel VC landscape. Going back a little bit, obviously we have a long history, and I'll say from my standpoint, I've been very fortunate to get a considerable amount of deal flow just through my circles and my travels and my network. And one of the first things I'll do is pick up that phone and say, "Hey Jeff, let's check this out, man."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in that process, we certainly come across some real gems. I'll let you talk about the tax file story, right? That's a pretty cool one. You got a deal going in a Mexican restaurant in Sunset Harbor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't mind, let's dig into the portfolio a bit, because it is a very diverse and I think pretty unique approach to VC when you look at that portfolio of yours.
Yeah. So I think for me, so my partner, her name is Maggie Vo. She's a CFA. She's an immigrant from Vietnam. She came here when she was 17 years old. She's honestly probably one of the brightest human beings I've ever met, and one of the hardest working people I've ever met. I mean, I work hard, and quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of people that can pace me, but she can, and so we make a really good partnership. Maggie is, I'm analytical, but I also have, this gut, or the street, let's just call it street smarts maybe, or just, 30 years of wisdom. I don't know, but I can meet someone and within minutes kind of tell you that I think that they're either full of shit or they're spot on, and they're one of these unique people. I think so for us, it's, does this company make sense from a financial perspective, right? Do we think that there's a big enough addressable market to really, make a difference? Because if there's not a big enough, addressable market, there's really no sense in and investing in it, because our job is to, create multiples for our investors, not percentages. And and Maggie kind of makes sure that all of that is buttoned up. And then on my side, I spot her to make sure that I agree with her assessments, but then I really try to make ultimate decisions on people. And one of the greatest things about being in venture capital is and this, IRiE, we get to meet some super interesting people that really live on the edge of the planet and see the world in very different ways than the normal person does. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that really interesting human being that, sees something sitting on a table and sees that being some technological, disruption. And those are the individuals that we're really looking for. I like to invest in people who have a track record of success. I mean, people who are successful have been successful at everything they've done their entire life. They were
True.
They played hockey in high school, they were the captain. If they played hockey in college, they were the captain. And
that's
and
true.
everything, it's in their wiring. They just know for whatever reason how to be successful. And I try to find those people that have this track record of success, because I think once you've been successful in life, you always want to be successful moving forward. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's kind of how we look at it. And I think a good example, you brought up TaxFile. I mean, for everybody that's on the call with us today, IRiE and I, this go back 6 years ago. IRiE called me, as he said, being a celebrity, he gets a tremendous amount of deal flow. And fortunately for me, IRiE kind of looks at me and my firm as a bolt-on VC firm, does all the research for him, right? Which for him is super smart, and for me, it's super good too, because we get to look at so many interesting things. But IRiE calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm having lunch with these two guys today, and let's I'd like you to come and meet with me." And I'm like, it's IRiE, so I'll do anything for him. He's my brother, and I love him. So if he says, "Hey, I need you to be I need you to be in wherever at noon," I'm going to be there for him. And so I show up, and there's these two guys, Michael and Richard, two amazing founders, and we listened to their story, and it was an idea. I mean, IRiE and I were the angels for TaxFile, right? And I think our first investment, our first check into the company, IRiE, I think it was $6 million. I'm pretty sure it is. And I was just on an investment banker call last week, and we're looking at a sale price for that company of $1 billion. So, 6 million to $1 billion, you can all do the math. But and again, you talk about the founders, right? I mean, Richard was
multiples, not percentages.
Multiples, not percentages. That's going to be a damn good investment for us, IRiE. But two amazing founders. One's an attorney, which brings a really interesting component, and the other one's a CPA, and their business is really democratizing how CPAs work. So if you're doing taxes, and today's day and age, there's no reason to go into some stupid office and sit down with someone across the desk. You pull up your phone and you communicate through a secure network with a CPA who's licensed. So if there ever becomes an issue with your taxes, you have a CPA who's licensed and has to give you support. And it just absolutely crushes it. And it's the truth of the matter is, I have to be careful about this, but there might be people on this call today who get their taxes done from some major CPA firms around the world, and there's a really high probability that it's being white labeled out of Miami, Florida through TaxFile. I mean, we do a lot of white label work for some of the biggest names in the industry. People just don't know it.
Yep. That's a beautiful thing, man. Beautiful thing. Tom actually has a great question. I know what this answer is for me, but Tom says, tell us about a deal that you passed on but now regret. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah. So knock on wood, but as of right now, I really don't have one. I got a number that I did that I regret, but
right.
But I don't really, You know, I got a number of those, but I don't have a lot of.
Well,
I don't have one that I can say, man, we really missed the boat on that one. Again, I think I'm super fortunate. I got a great team behind me, and we don't make mistakes like that very often, or at least not yet.
well, I tell you one thing. I certainly have one, right? And I'll tell you about it. Um, there's these guys, really good friends for a very long time. I met them in Tallahassee because they were doing these really cool paint parties called Life in Color. Okay, so it's like they'll do these parties and you're dressed in some clothes you don't really care about, and they'll throw paint all over. It was actually really cool, really fun. I performed at a bunch of them, and these guys know how to do a paint party, right? And they sold their company to SFX. They were trying to be a kind of like the Live Nation of festivals at the time. Ended up, kind of crashing and burning. But they sold their company, and they were like, "Okay, what are we going to do next?" And I remember they called me one day. It's three partners, and they called me and says, "Hey, we're going to move to California and get into cannabis, right?" And I was like, "Okay, really?" And they're like, "Yeah, we think we can develop something that'll be, really amazing." And I'm like, "All right, well, good luck." And so listen, we'll get together. We want you to be a part of it, so we'll let you know. So a couple months later, they send me a whole deck. Company is called Dreamfields, right? They send me a deck and they said, "Listen, come out and visit us. We want to show you the property that we got, that we're gonna, build out our facility, and we're doing this." And happened to be going to LA like 2 weeks from that time that we spoke. And I went to go see what they're doing. And it was definitely impressive. But then I sat down and said, you know what? These guys are great at throwing parties, right? There's so much, especially going to California, where like they're the pioneers of everything's happening in the cannabis industry, right? They're going against all these big boys, a couple Miami guys. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Well, Jeff, today I can tell you they own the number one selling pre-roll brand in all of California and two other states. And they're crushing it, crushing it. And I had the opportunity to be literally first money in. And I hate myself for it. I hate myself for it.
Yeah.
I should have said, you know what? You guys are great at throwing parties. You know what? I'm sure you can sell some weed too,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I regret that one, man. I regret
I
that one.
understand.
Yeah, I regret that one. It happens though,
You never know. You never know.
So real quick, before we run out of time, there is another question. There's another question from Raul, and it is what's a word of advice to your viewers who want to better themselves and be individuals who are not full of shit, as you put it, Jeff. what what can Raul do better? What can Raul do to better himself and create value for a firm like Fuel VC?
So I think what we do here for Raul is you and I both answer this question. You're a super successful guy, one of the most successful guys I know. So what I'm going to say is my answer is very old school. IRiE and I live in Miami. Miami is an incredible city. Like I said, I think it's the greatest city in the world. But one of the other things about Miami that's not so great is there's a lot of show. And so a lot of people will show up there and you got to spend time with people to really understand if there's any depth there, right? We're from Miami, so we're water people, but when you get into water that's really there's not a lot of depth, we call it skinny water. And so one of the things that we say in Miami is, there's a lot of skinny people running around, which means, are they real? And I think,
Yeah.
The key for me is I'm a really hard worker. I'm not the smartest guy, even though I'm on this amazing webinar right now saying that I am. I'm not. IRiE's 2x more intelligent than I am,
Man.
but all the truth in the world. There's no doubt about it. But if I get on the treadmill with anybody on this call right now, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get off, or I'll die of a heart attack. That's just the way that it is. I know how to work really hard. I grew up on a ranch when I was younger, and I was an athlete when I was younger. I've been around a lot of really strong men who have always pushed me to the limits, and so that's my magic pill, if you will, just never stopping. And I would tell you that I think that's it. I think if you believe in something, you've got to get up every single morning. And sometimes it's really, really hard. And anybody who's on this call that thinks it's easy to start a business, you've lost your mind. There is nothing more difficult than starting a company. And as Tom said at the beginning of this call, I used to run a $2.5 billion P&L with thousands of employees, and what I do now is exponentially more difficult. I mean, I work 120 hours a week, 7 days a week. I'm hoping that slows down.
That's true.
But that's the way that it is. And when I see founders that are working all the time, we've got a founder in Miami, Axe Labs. His name is Jonathan, and Jonathan and his team built the #1 multiplayer video game multi-shooter in the world. It's called The Veil. Really cool things about to be announced with Meta with respect to The Veil. And Miami is a party city as well. I mean, there's never a night that you can't go and have a good time and party and do whatever you want to do. But it's guys like Jonathan who stay at the lab and work all night long versus going out and being a part of that that makes him different. And those are the kind of people that I'm looking for, real people that have serious depth. And when they say they want to build something special, they put everything that they've got into it: time, energy, mental capacity, capital, and they never stop. And when things look the worst, and right now, this is the worst market I've ever seen in 30 years. I think it's the worst market that anybody's seen in 54 years. And it's really, really hard. But you got to keep working. You got to get up every morning. And if you survive it, you're going to be, one of the lucky ones at the end who have learned a ton. And then you have a great company. So I'm going to say work ethic to me and just being authentic are the two things that are most important.
I hear that loud and clear, Jeff. Let me get to two more questions real quick. I know we are running tight on time, but let's see if we can get these in. This is from Ross Wolf. So Ross says, deal flow into early stage companies has been relatively active compared to later stage, Series B on. The UK has loosened funding and is now being aggressive in investing, arguably more than the US. Likely interest rate increases will further damage confidence. The question is, how far out do you see before VC is active again and revs up?
So the data right now suggests that there's about $290 billion of dry capital in hands like my own, right? From LPs who have invested or committed capital to venture capital firms, 290 billion of dry capital. Of that, about 21% of it is 2019 or behind. And how venture capital works is you have like a 5-year investment period. So if you do the math, you got 21% of 290 billion that's really budding up to its 5-year investing period. They have to get that into the market, or they have to return it to their investor. Nobody wants to return it to the investor. So you're going to start seeing a lot of dry powder going into the markets. It's happening right now. I mean, there's deals being done every single day. I mean, it's here in St. Louis, it's almost 2:00, and from 6:00 this morning till the time that we started, I was working on 3 deals, and that's just us. So multiply that by all the different VCs that are out there. There's deals being done. They're just being done in different ways, right? The investor right now has control, and there's a lot of really creativity, a lot of down rounds, a lot of recaps, a lot of financial engineering that's taking place during this period of time. But it's this window is not going to stay open for forever because of what I said before, which is capital. There's a lot of dry capital out there that's ready to go.
Yeah, gotcha. And here's another question from Richard Wellman. This is interesting. He said, Jeff, what prompted you to invest in Terran Orbital? I was a part of that. I was a part of
IRiE, you're a part of everything. So here's the backdrop of this thing. This is I've said it before. First of all, Richard Wildman, one of my oldest mentors, one of the greatest motivational speakers on the planet. Again, one of our investors, luckily enough to be one of our investors, and followed me from the public world into the private world. And this is an incredible human being. Love you, Richard. Thanks for being on. Terran Orbital. So Tom talked about this at the beginning of the show, mentioned the IRiE Foundation. One of the greatest things about IRiE is he is very successful, but anybody who knows him knows his heart is bigger than his personality, which is pretty damn big. So IRiE takes a tremendous amount of time and energy, mental capacity, capital to give back. He has an incredible foundation in Miami that helps underprivileged children in the inner city of Miami, really find a home and find, passion around music. He has a music center, and these kids have to be selected to come in. I mean, you have to have certain grades, and it's just an absolute incredible thing. I mean, I've met kids at the IRiE Foundation, and I've been a part of the IRiE Foundation. God, IRiE, we're getting old, but it's been what, 14, 15 years, something like that.
We're getting old, but we've done a lot of good. We've done a lot of good.
Well, you've done a lot of good, man. That's all you. And again, like I was saying, I mean, I've met children in Miami that have never been to Miami Beach. They'll ask you, have you ever been to the beach? And it's like, what are you talking about? Of course I've been to the beach. And they're like, what's it like? So one of the things that I'm most proud of is IRiE didn't have the ability to take these kids anywhere. So we bought him a van so that we bought him and his foundation a van. And then we had a local artist in town, which is very connected to Miami. His name is Brito, if you're familiar with his work. And Brito painted the van, and now IRiE has the ability to take these kids to the beach. And anyway, it's an incredible foundation. And so he was doing a fundraiser at a Top Golf, which he's involved in Miami, and asked my team and I to support, which obviously we did. And I actually was sitting next to the founder and the CEO of Terran Orbital. His name is Mark Bell, who has been a huge fan and follower and supporter of IRiE's forever. And then IRiE did what IRiE does best, which is just make the connection. And Mark showed up in my office one day with a micro satellite. Yeah. And IRiE can attest to this, but Mark is definitely one of those guys that sees the world in a different way, and good investment. And I can't say because it's a public company, but what an incredible company, and what an incredible company out into even a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, just doing incredible things in space that we all benefit from. We don't realize all of the security that takes place from space on a daily basis, and Mark's involved in all of that.
Yeah, very cool stuff, man. Very cool stuff. And another question from Tom is, do you like to be the first in on a deal or follow on later on?
Both. We tend to be leaders, not followers. We do like to source things and be the first in, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes we're coming in later on in time, which is perfectly fine too, because you can buy down a lot of risk. But regardless if we come in the beginning or if we come in the middle, or if we even come in, later on in time, we're always very involved. Fuel Venture Capital is an active portfolio manager. We're not passive. We're very, very involved. Our backgrounds, our pedigree is really about operational excellence and helping companies get to profitability and have a real company. Goes back to what we were talking about before about skinny. I want to invest in companies that have real depth, that have real customers, have real revenue, have real opportunity to expand that revenue, so that the investors that are supporting the company really they benefit, and so does the end consumer at the end of the day. I think that's really what it's all about.
I love it. I love it. Listen, Jeff, we could do this all day, or for me, all night. But this has been fantastic.
I'm sure that you have like parties to go to. It's got, what is it, 8 o'clock at night there? I'm sure that you've got like
I gotta get to the pub.
Suite. Yeah, you got people in your suite, like your whole posse. What are you doing? Get the hell off this Zoom. What are you doing with this guy? You don't have time for this. These
I've got to get to the pub. I got to get to the pub. That's what it is. I got to get to the
That's
pub.
what it is.
Yeah. We're in Dublin.
How late do the pubs stay open in Dublin? Because in the UK they close at like 9.
They wait for me.
They wait. Yeah, they close the place down for you. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing.
They wait for me. They wait for me.
You go to a restaurant in Miami with IRiE, and you never pay for anything because they comp him for everything. And then the next day I go by myself and they double the bill. It's like, well, you were IRiE yesterday, but you're not today. That's how it works.
No, Jeff, they know times are tough, so they're just trying to be a little welfare, it's a little welfare, and I appreciate it.
We'll take it out on Ransdell. It's all good.
Well, listen, speaking of taking it out, I will take you out when I get back. All right, I'll be here for a couple more days, but we definitely got to hang when we get back. Speaking of hanging, where's our boy Tom? Let's bring Tom back on so he can come in and do what he does and talk to the folks. But this has been awesome, man. I'm so glad I got to be a part of this, Jeff, and it worked out. Even with my crazy schedule, we made it work. But that's what we do. We make things work, man. We make it work.
It is what we do. I love you, brother. Thank you.
Well, guys,
love you, Jeff.
I got a couple thank yous to say. First, thank you to Jared Shapiro for bringing you two rock stars to my platform. Jared is a Miami-based publicist that runs a company called The Tag Experience, the best in the business. So thank you, Jared. Jeff and I, at the outset, I introduced you two as guys who have done really well and do good. And you've proven that in spades today. And I appreciate the stories that you shared that back that up. You all are the real deal. And we need more of you like this everywhere in this country, not just in Miami. So thanks, and please keep doing what you're doing. To the audience, you got yourself a treat today, and I promised that at the outset. I think I delivered for you today, and I'm pleased that you came, and I look forward to having you back next week. Next week. In the meantime, be nice to each other, and we will see you on the flip side. All the best.
Take care, Tom. IRiE, be well, brother. And thanks for everybody for
take care, you guys.
For dialing in. Ciao.